Redmackerel is basically is my literal translation of the Bangdo. It's basically the literal translation of the red masala, the red masala, and then the filling inside the Bangdo. So what happened was I went to register the name of the company. And when I went to register the name of the company, it wasn't really Red Mackerel. It was, I can't really remember. But when I went there, the registrar said, I'm sorry, we're not going to be registering it because the name you've chosen is too generic. It could be anything. So you have to come up with something unique. You've got to come up with something different. And I think right there and then, somehow I just thought of the word Red Mackerel because I wanted it to be connected to Goa, because what Redmackerel does is it's basically a company wherein we want to make films and we want to tell local stories. So stories about Goa, stories about people in villages and all of that stuff. And I think if you say to any Goan, Reshat Bangdo, any Goan will know what a Reshat Bangdo is. You know what I mean?
Sir.
So
Yes.
that's so basically that's where Red Mackerel comes from.
Nice.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
I'd like to answer that question at two levels. The first level is basically in terms of food itself, and the second level is in terms of culture. The first thing is, I think, when you use the word student, right? The basic mindset of a student is a student learns, right? That's what a student is. A student goes somewhere because the student is learning. That's why they're called a student. So what I would say is that, firstly, you shouldn't lose that learning mindset in your life. You've got to be a lifelong student, right? So you've got to learn, you've got to keep that mindset for the rest of your life. It's not like I finished my course at Salgaocar and now I'm not a student anymore. I've learned, I'm done. You've got to basically keep the student mindset and stay as a student for as long as you can. And the reason I'm saying this is because when you stay a student as long as you can, you will automatically start engaging in things that will preserve your culture, right? Because I'll tell you something, there's a lot of stuff that we don't know about our own culture, right? Before I shot the film, there were so many things that I had no clue about, right? And even after I spent 4 years with the farming community, and I feel okay, I know a little bit more. Just 1 week ago, I was sitting about 15 minutes away from my house, close to the fields, close to the wetlands. I was just sitting there and daydreaming, whatever. And this guy from my village, he saw me sitting there and he came and he sat next to me on this piece of wood. And I thought that he was collecting firewood, but actually he just came because I was sitting there. So he came and 40 and for 40 learned about our culture and about ourselves. But he told me so many different things that I had no clue about. So I learned. So to answer your question, what I would say to you is, first of all, I don't know, I'm sure there will be lots of things within your own families that you can ask them about. And there'll be lots of things within your own families. There'll be stories within your families. There'll be traditions within your families. There'll be so many things connected to agriculture within your family, right? Something that your grandmother knows about, something that your grandfather knows about, something that your aunt knows, your uncle knows, which we who have gone to schools have absolutely no value for, because we love to go to schools and we love to get great marks and we love to do all these academically fantastic things, right? But we've so disconnected with nature, with who we actually are. So the first thing you can do for yourself and for everybody else is, if you guys could even say, we're going to collect stories from our own families and bring them to college and start showing them to each other. I'll tell you something today, technology is so amazing. With a simple phone like this, you can just hit record and record that story. Your grandmother talking about when they used to go to the fields, what used to happen, and what were the things that happened there, and like what would happen when the monsoons came, and how they would store rice or whatever. It doesn't have to be about rice. It could be about something to do with its culture, right? You asked me about how do you preserve culture. This is how you can preserve culture. So I don't know what the strength of your class is, but let's say you all are how many students are there in the class in your third year or whatever? How many students do you all have in your class? What's the strength?
40.
Sorry?
40.
Roughly, we have overall strength is around 80 per year, 80 to 85 students per year.
Okay, so here's what I'm saying. Imagine that even half, 40 students bring stories from their homes. Just think about 40 students bringing stories from their homes about just simple questions that they've asked their parents, and they've recorded it on their cameras, and they brought it and they're sharing it. Look at the wealth of knowledge that comes out, right? What is the recipe? How is it made? A year ago, I went and I shot an entire documentary, a photo documentary on how a tanla bakri is made. I don't know how many of you all have eaten tanla bakris, right? There are so many Goans who don't even know what a tanla bakri is, right? How is the tanla bakri actually made, right? How is the rice soaked? How is the rice then mixed with the coconut, and how is all of that stuff? And then how is the banana leaves used to bake it, right? Now, I'm sure some of you all may even be doing that in your homes, but some of you all may even be having kanji, pears, and all of that stuff. But I think these are the things that we've got to sort of bring back into our conversations, right? So that is the first question I think I've answered from a cultural point of view. The other thing is, what can you do for the farmers? To be honest, the farmers are pretty self-sufficient today. There's not much you can really do for the farmers per se, because they've already got a system, they're working in the system, and they're doing whatever, right? Now, if you are bringing something new to them, then you can take it to them. So for example, let's just say within your university or institute, you'll develop something unique using rice as the main thing. You'll develop maybe products, you'll develop something from there. Now you can add value to them. So for example, let's just say you go to them and you bring back to their university and you research it and you create puff rice biscuits or something, right? Puff rice biscuits with flavors. So with Goan flavors, with jaggery, with ginger and honey, I don't know, right? Now what you do is you take that back to the farmer, or you buy produce from them, or you show them how to do it. Now that adds a bit of value, right? I don't think you can really teach the farmer today how to grow rice and what to do in terms of farming, because let's be honest, we don't have that knowledge and we don't have the technology, right? Unless you decide to go, hey, you know what, I'm going to find out where technology has really improved. Like there's somebody in America who's doing this better, or there's somebody in Vietnam who's doing this better, and then you bring that technology and you help them. But I don't think really we're in that position. So I think we've got to work within the strengths that we have. So what I would say to you is work within the strength that you have. You have the strength to basically go out there and capture stories within your family. Do that, right? Do capture the farming stories in your village, capture the farming stories in your family. You've got the strength to basically, which with Chef Sebastian, think of innovative things that you can do using local product like rice and coconut and all. What can you do, right? And what can you make? And maybe you can make something from that and take it to the farmers and say, hey, I came to you, I took all of this stuff, I made it, and here's how you make it. And maybe they can make it at home and increase their income through it. So yeah, those are my 2 bits in terms of.
So myself, Clenny Dias from third year. And to tell you very frankly, I belong to a farmer's family, my background. And when it comes to the food, I still do it. Kanji, pears, tisane, ambil, I still do it. I still do eat. So my question to you is, what is one of your earliest memory around food when you were a child?
So, really good question. My earliest memory around food, when I think of tisane, I think of fever, because that was what was given to me when I was sick, right? Tisane, I mean, your pears was what was basically the go-to in terms of illness. So I don't have the best memories when it comes to pears, but I understand the value of pears and I eat it. I eat it personally on almost a daily basis, or as much as I can, right? Because I love the flavor of the pears now, and it's not really connected to being sick. And I think that the pears really has some great medicinal value as well. The broth that comes out of the rice and all of that, it's really healthy for the body. um but my earliest memory of food, when you say food, I mean, I've got different memories, but because we're talking about rice here and we're talking about the film that I made and all of this stuff, so staying in context with that, my earliest memory of rice and food is basically the tanla bakri, eating that as a child, that being made, and then put in the banana leaf, and then eating all of that stuff in the evening before I went out to play football, and all of that stuff, right? And my earliest memories are, my father used to grow a lot of fields, right? So I grew up with a lot of memories of having lived in fields, having been a part of the whole agrarian culture, which is going to the fields, sowing the fields, threshing the field, then these uh, before the tractor came in, using buffaloes to basically thresh the rice. And then after that, even boiling of the rice, the boiling of the rice in all of those handis, at whatever, it would start in the evening and go on till uh, 1 o'clock in the morning or 2 o'clock in the morning, or start at 4 o'clock in the morning or 5 o'clock in the morning and finish at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock in the morning, right? So even though I personally did not grow anything, I was always a part of that entire culture. And I mean, when I used to eat kanji, but I was not sick, it was my memory of it was always kanji with para, you know, kanji and para together. So that's my personal memory of eating.
Best combination.
Yeah, yeah. What do you eat in terms of, what do you have? Do you still have kanji every day?
I eat raw mangoes
Chepne
with
to.
dry chilies, mixed with dry chilies, salt, and vinegar. So that's what I prefer with kanji.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And even even tisane. I don't know how many people have tisane here. Yeah, but these are all the fantastic foods that come out from our agrarian culture. Jaggery with a bit of rice, and yeah.
My first question to you is, what is that one element or phase in the entire film of 37 minutes that has had an impact on you or touched you the most, and why?
That's like asking me what's my favorite child. uh, it's hard for me really to pick any one particular moment in the film, Muriel, but I would have to say that what really impacted me the most um, is what I discovered while I was making the film. It's really what I discovered while I was making the film. It's my interaction with the farming community. It's how um, it's how they accepted me while I was making the film. It's also about the real uh, the real simplicity of their lives and the honesty that they live. A certain sense of simplicity and honesty, you know. And I think more than anything else, it's really that simplicity that they have, in terms and what they take in, and the dedication that they have towards an entire industry or a culture that, and I still say this, that they are passionate about and they care about, but the larger context of society doesn't get it and actually frowns upon it, you know. And I think that that is really the problem. That is really something that is, so you've got a whole group of people that are so connected to their land and connected, and that's actually what keeps a lot of us going. It really in a way makes us, it connect in many ways, it defines our identity also, our cultural identity of who we are as Goans, right?
Yes, absolutely.
And because we are now becoming so technologically advanced, and you know, all these other changes are coming, we're losing that connection. And I think, you know, if I can answer your question, instead of picking any one particular moment in the film, I think it's more the process that I went through while I was making the film that sort of had an impact on me. I mean, you've got to understand that basically before I started to make this film, I had no concept of what a camera did and how it worked. I was just out there recording and basically just, you know, doing, you know, the intention was there, but I had no technical skills. And it was basically like going to film school. So instead of going to a film school, my film school was actually in the fields, 3 or 4 years of actually working there every day. A film like this is usually made with an entire crew of 30 people, 40 people, with the entire script and like your whole thing, cameras, action plans, and all of that stuff, right? This entire thing was really shot by just, it was really almost I had 80 hours or 90 hours of video footage that was shot by me, by being in the fields for 3 years, right? So I literally was in the fields every day, almost every day, with no budget, with just a camera, the basic equipment, right? And so you got to understand that it's not, that's why for me to pick a moment is really hard, because it was an entire process. It was like a full process of learning, you know. It's like a full process of learning. I mean, to give you an analogy, it would be like, imagine you stepped into a kitchen and you've got no clue. You don't know what eggs do. You don't know what flour does. You don't know what sugar does. You don't know what any of this stuff does, right? And all you're doing is you're standing in that kitchen for 3 years. And after 3 years, you know exactly what everything does, right? Because you've been in that kitchen for that long. So yeah, I mean, it'll be hard for you to say now after 3 years, does making a cake impact you more than making a pizza? Do you enjoy like, is a steak better than a lemon pie? It's going to be hard, right? But because you've gone, you stood in the kitchen and you've taken the heat for 4 years, it's just it's really it's the process.
Absolutely. It's great to hear this from you, Mr. Wins. I have another question for you, and I'm super excited to hear this as well.
Yeah.
Towards the end of the film, we see Miss Sandra Fernandez, who is an organic farmer and an educator herself, speak with so much passion and enthusiasm about organic farming.
Yeah.
And it is evident how much of a difference she strives to bring about through spreading awareness about the same. My question to you is, what, according to you, can we as the youth do to break the stigma attached to farming and cultivate the preservation of agriculture as a whole?
So I think basically when you look at it as so when you say that the stigma, the only way you can actually try to take away stigma is by normalizing things, right? You've got to normalize it in society. Otherwise, it remains like a sore thumb that points out, and then that's where the stigma is, right? Because we've made it like a sore thumb, we've made it stick out. So when you say, okay, how do you actually? First of all, like I'll go back to saying it again. I think it's like you've got to really be honest with yourself, I think, more than anything else, and find out if you're really passionate about it. If you're not passionate about it, don't force yourself. Don't force yourself, right? Because there are two ways to understand. If you want to, one is the whole thing of doing it because you need to do it, which is basically from a survival point of view. It's from our food security point of view, right? So because we need to survive in the future and we need to have a food security, we do it, correct?
Yeah.
But then the other question is, supposing food security, are you really, really passionate about it? You know, because I'll tell you something. We say, oh, we can grow and it's organic and this and that and everything. But once you actually walk into the fields and you start working in the field, you realize how challenging it is. I don't know what was the name of the girl who said she was from. I think Clenny it was, right? Clenny said
Yes.
she from the farming community, correct? So you can, if you talk to Clenny, and Clenny's been in the fields with her mother and her grandmother and all of that stuff, and get her to talk to you guys, she'll tell you how brutal it is. It is a brutal thing. It's not like, it's not, the film can make it look, oh, there's these farmers and it's nice and it's all this. But trust me, once you get into it, you realize how brutal it is, right? And a lot of us who've gone to, who've gone to schools and whatever, our basic capacity, our physical capacity, our mental capacity is completely different. We're not genetically in that zone to basically do all of that stuff, right? So we've got to understand whether we are really, how passionate we are. Because if you're really passionate, then when the hard stuff and the obstacle comes in the fields, we'll be willing to push through it, right? If we don't have that passion, then when that obstacle arrives, you're going to go, baga, I don't want to do this. It's like, forget it, man. I wanted to do all of this stuff, but it's just not worth it, right?
Yeah.
So the first thing I would say to you or to anybody is, first figure out whether you're really, why do you want to do this? What is the intention? Are you really passionate about it? Do you really feel that, what is the reason? Like, is this because you need it for survival? If you need it for survival, then trust me, there's no question about passion. You're just going to do it. But if you don't need it for passion, if you don't need it for survival, then it's about whether you really care enough.
Yes, Mr. Wins.
So my name is Maria Cristobal Barreto, and I'm currently doing my MSc at VMSIIHE. So as a native of Kurtorem, I was really thrilled after watching your documentary. And it also helped me to enhance my knowledge about the paddy fields in Kurtorem, and most of which, honestly, I didn't even know about how things work. And I'm really grateful to you, sir, because you chose my little village to be part of your documentary. So now coming back to the question, as a musician and songwriter, why did you decide to make a film about the traditional occupation of farming in Kurtorem? And did you also think of composing a song around it?
Yeah. Which part of Kurturi are you from?
So I'm from Bati Sandeol,
Okay.
near Raitorem.
Yeah. Do you recognize people in the film?
Yeah, I did.
Okay. Yeah. So you asked me as a singer-songwriter, why did I make the film? Yeah, I think, I've said earlier, I made the film. It was unintentional. I made it because I felt that there was a need to, just like how, you said it, you watch the film and you've learned something, right? You've learned something. There's some value in that, right? And I feel that a lot of people who are here would not know all of that stuff. So really, it's made from a point of creating a bit of awareness and education, and it's something that I was passionate about. I really care about the village, so that's why I basically made the film, and that's why it's centered around Kurturi. But have I written any songs about it directly? No. But because I spend a fair bit of time there, I would say a lot of the music that I actually write is inspired by the environment. So I don't have a song that actually is connected to the field particularly. But yeah. But the thing is, while I was making the film, I actually met a few people who write poetry in Kurturi, and some of them have actually written songs about poems about the fields and about the farmers and all of that stuff. So maybe that'll be something I'll put out someday, because I filmed a bit of that. And if you pay attention to some of the songs in the film that the women are singing, they are already directly connected to the fields. They're already connected to what is going on in the fields. They're narratives basically of. So back in the day, when women worked in the fields, they would actually sing these songs, right? So I had to go and find them and get them to remember these songs and get them to basically sing them again. Because now what happens is they go into the fields, but a lot of that older tradition of singing these songs, telling stories, and all of that stuff are gone. So I just made an effort to go and find some of these women and get them to remember. And then they luckily could remember. And that's why I was able to get some of these songs that are in the film now. So a lot of that music is already connected to the fields. And I don't know if I'm going to be able to write anything better than them. I think they've already done enough of, there's a lot of justice in their music to the fields. So yeah.
The music was very lovely, sir. Thank you so much for answering my question.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Mr. Vince. Being a Goikar, I would really like to tell you that I really, really enjoyed watching your documentary. So there's just one question which I would like to ask you. Do you have any dish made up of rice which you love? What it is and why do you love it?
Any dish that is made up of rice that I really love?
Yes.
Yeah. So an aunt of mine used to make a variation of the tanlache bakri. Okay. So basically, I don't know how many of you have actually eaten the tanlache bakri here, but
Yes.
the tanlache bakri is pretty straightforward. It's rice with a bit of coconut, and I don't know, some people may put jaggery or whatever, but then it's all and it's all baked, right? So it's pretty straightforward, coconuts and all of that stuff. But an elderly aunt of mine used to make a lovely. I don't know how many people have eaten this, because when I've spoken to them, they seem like they don't know what I'm talking about. So maybe it was her own innovation. And she used to make it with prawn. So she used to basically take prawns and she would make like a masala out of the prawn, like with a bit of chili and like a nice spice in it. And then she would fill the bakri with the prawn inside it, and then she would bake it. And she used to call it sumtache bakri, right? And the amazing part about it was that when you ate it, the tanlache bakri, if you eat it, is by itself quite sweet, because it has the coconut, it has all of that stuff, right? And what the prawn and the spice did was that it balanced off the sugar, right? So when you ate it, you got the sweet stuff, you had the zing coming through, and then you had the sweetness also balancing off the prawn, right? I can't talk because my mouth is watering, but but it's that's what food can do, and it's a great memory because I remember her by it, and we still make it at home. We still make it at home from time to time. So I mean, we as Goans, we always have our fish curry, rice, and all that stuff that goes with it. But to me, this is my favorite rice connected food. Culinary food item. Yeah.
Yes, it seems like a very good recipe. Maybe all of us can try it.
Yeah, actually.
Thank you so much. Yeah. Thank you.
I'm going to be really dead honest here. I haven't played for a long time because I put the music out, and then so much has happened between my music, my film. When I put the music out, I had no children. Now I have 3. So it's been a long road. But I will sing a song, and I will sing a song that I actually sing to my kids, and I think it's quite a happy song. So it will probably leave you guys with a bit of a smile. Well, my sunshine, my only sunshine, you make me happy when skies are gray. You never know, dear, how much I love you, so please don't take sunshine away. The other night, dear, while I lay sleeping, I dreamt I held you in my arms. But when I woke, dear, I was just dreaming. So I hung my head and cried. For my sunshine, my only sunshine, you make me happy when skies are gray. You never know, dear, how much I love you. So please don't take my sunshine away. Please don't take my sunshine away. Please don't take my sunshine away.
Oh,
Yay! Round of applause.
Okay then.
Woohoo!
It was good. It was good chatting with all of you. It was really good. Thanks for inviting me to do this with all of y'all and share a bit about the film and about the background and everything. All I would say is I think a lot of you are in y'all are students and y'all are in an institute and you're in a very, very powerful position actually because y'all are really young and y'all are the change makers. And you got to think about it from that perspective. You have the opportunity to not be shy about who you are and where you come from because each of us where we come from, we all have stories. I'm a storyteller, so I'm always after stories. I want to know stories. I want to know what is in your family, what's in your culture, what's in your and I think you've got to bring your food stories and your family stories to the institute and share it with each other. Like I'm looking for a name. Clancy, is that what is the name? Clenny. Clenny has and other people have these ideas about like she's had kanji and she's had the all of that stuff. Bring those things to the institute and how do you make the tanlache bakri and all these things. So then that's how we understand our, like chef said, kilometer zero or absolutely down to earth local stuff. Because otherwise we are looking for there's nothing wrong about it, but then we are looking for olives from Spain and lemons from Greece and these amazing wasabis from Japan and then all of that stuff, which fine, absolutely no problem. But I think there's so much here, right here in our villages that needs to be found, needs to be documented, needs to be discovered and incorporated. Find how you can use that in your food.